Good evening. It is 5:30, so we're going to call the Board of Health meeting to order first, and then we'll move into the City Council meeting after that. Before we do that, I remind you to turn your phones to silent or vibrate, and then let's all please stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chris, would you take the roll for the council?
Councilmember Berg.
Here.
Councilmember Dalby.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Approve the minutes for meeting number 4 on June 15th, 2021 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Give that to Holly.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 602 East Mary in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
This is a public hearing, so Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So the structure at 602 East Mary was placarded initially in November 3rd of 2014 due to issues with the foundation, incomplete siding, and broken windows. The property's changed ownership 5 times during the duration of the placard file. At some periods, progress has been made, and at other periods, it's been lost. The current owner acquired the property in March of 2020. He did not complete the submitted repair plan at that time. This is the condition of the foundation at present. It has been excavated around and the walls have been removed a couple months ago, but then it stayed in that condition for the last couple months. Creates an attractive nuisance in addition to the issues that would have for the structure long term if it remains in that condition. You can see where it's sitting on some posts that are precariously located right next to where the footing would be poured. It has some other issues. The owner did submit a request for a condemnation deferral on March 17th. We'd previously scheduled this for condemnation in March, and he signed a statement that he would have the excavation complete within 15 days and repairs finished within 45 days. Neither one of those had begun within 45 days. On June 8th, he did say he'd have the repairs completed by June 22nd, and on June 22nd, nothing had been done. And then on June 23rd, he did schedule a foundation inspection for June 25th and committed to be finished on June 25th. He did not show up for that inspection and no work had been done. We don't have a good foundation to believe that the work will be completed, and there is currently the attractive nuisance on the property, and so it has been scheduled for the condemnation hearing. The property remains in violation of the code. Condemnation notice was served by mail and by posting the notice on the property and in the Ottumwa Courier, and staff does recommend condemning and demolishing the property.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. At this public hearing, if there's anyone in the audience who wants to address this item, now's the time to step to the microphone and identify yourself.
Well, my name is Juan Perez, and I've been working in the house, and the foundation is like that because we got 3 weeks of rain, and I got pictures there's still water on it. So I got tired of digging out by hand, and they start caving in. So I got a contractor that's gonna put the walls for me. He tried to get the permit this Friday, but he couldn't because he wanted to start when to put the walls off this Monday. So he couldn't do it. So he's just ready for me. He tried to get the permit, so he's ready to get the permit to start working on it. Because I've been putting a lot of money into that.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Okay. Okay. No further comments, and I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
Councilmember Berg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby.
Yes.
Councilmember Myers.
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 602 East Mary, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative cost, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 602 East Mary.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second. Thank you. Any questions for Zach? We have,
Gonna bring the city attorney in. The phone was off, so.
In the meantime, Zach, was there, knowing that the initial 45-day deferral was missed starting in March, was there any other reasoning? Obviously, he stated weather later this year, but we had quite a long dry time as well during that time. Was there any other reasons given why that first 45 days wasn't met?
I don't remember any particular reason other than weather
All right,
and
thank you.
availability of help. I know that Mr. Perez said that he had people who were going to work for him, but they were at a different site, that he was working in Wisconsin. Those sorts of things did contribute to the delay as well. We also did try to schedule this even earlier. We gave the additional extension because I filed a public hearing notice for 602 East Main instead of East Mary, and so we did give him an extra month because of that, which was what we did in June. But again, there wasn't any progress. Like Mr. Perez said, he did have a contractor seek to obtain a permit on Monday, and our inspector did say that they were going to wait to issue that permit until there was a decision here. It's really tough because having worked on the cases we have, it's really hard to have an expectation or trust when, we haven't met the deadline so many times, but the permit has also been applied for, and he's correct that he did. He's at least expressed that he wants to get the work done this week or soon. So.
other questions for Zach?
A couple.
Go ahead.
Was there any explanation given? It looks like there were a couple of times where he did not show up for the inspection. Was there a reason given why there was a no-show for that?
There's nothing noted in the file. I don't know if anything would have been said to Jeff. Are you, Jeff? You're
No calls, no shows, no contact.
Okay. And if council were to say, we're going to give time, how long does it actually take for that to be completed and in a condition to where it can be inspected?
The job itself doesn't take very long, especially now that we're talking about pouring concrete walls instead of the block that he was going to use before, and that he has a contractor that would be doing the work as opposed to a homeowner or somebody like that. From start, it'd be just a couple of days. Obviously, there's, you have to schedule around weather and you have to schedule around the availability of a contractor, but the work itself is a couple of days. It's not even the entire building's foundation, it's just partial. So.
Are there other outstanding violations in addition to the foundation?
Yeah, there's other issues. The interior of the house is incomplete. There's missing siding. There's some other issues. And obviously those haven't been addressed in the meantime because it is unsafe to spend a lot of time inside the house with the condition of the foundation as it is.
Zach, for the sake of consistency or not being consistent, did you mention that this goes clear back to 2014?
Right, it does go all the way back to 2014. The current owners only had it since March of last year, which is still over a year.
But that's something it seems like we've dealt with a lot, that it's just passed on from one to another, and yet 2014, and here we still are.
Okay, other comments, other questions? Are you ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Burke,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Any other business, Zach, for the Board of Health?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, then I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Burke,
Yes.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Now we'll take the roll for the council meeting and move right into the regular council meeting.
Councilmember Dalby,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Myers,
Here.
Councilmember Burke,
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 22 on July 20th, 2021 as presented. Recommend appointment of Leanne Limburger to the Library Board of Trustees, term to expire 7/1/2024 due to a vacancy. Approve the appointment of Jerica Engel to the position of police officer effective on or about August 23rd, 2021. Civil Service Commission eligibility list for July 28th, 2021. Water Pollution Control Facility Pretreatment Coordinator promotional. Canvasser solicitor application for Knights of Columbus for the annual Tootsie Roll Drive at various businesses on August 27th through the 28th, 2021. Approve a 3-year lease agreement with Indian Hills Community College for the use of a hangar at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Approve a 1-year lease agreement for the use of a rental aircraft for flight instruction at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Approve a maintenance agreement between the City of Ottumwa and Indian Hills Community College to provide maintenance services for their aircraft. Approve the MOU between the City of Ottumwa and Southern Iowa Mental Health for a pilot program scheduled to launch August 1st, 2021 in the Police Department. Acceptance of grant in the amount of $8,633 from the Iowa State Fire Marshal's Office to purchase a thermal imaging camera for the Ottumwa Fire Department. Approve the purchase of a biochemical oxygen demand incubator from USA Blue Book for Water Pollution Control Facility in the amount of $4,360.50. Resolution number 158, 2021, approving the contract, bond, and certificate of insurance for the Rehabilitate Runway 422 project at the Ottumwa Regional Airport. Resolution number 159, 2021, approve the purchase of a 2022 F-350 regular cab with dump body and inverter option for the Sewer Maintenance Department from Stivers Ford of Waukee, Iowa, and the amount of $58,533, and rescinding resolution number 151, 2021 from the July 20th, 2021 meeting. Beer and/or liquor applications for Elks, Ottumwa Lodge number 347 at 413 South Iowa Avenue, Ottumwa Golf and Social Club at 304 East Gulf Avenue, Walmart Supercenter number 1285 at 1940 Venture Drive, Owl's Nest Temporary Outdoor Service Area on the following dates: 8/7 to 8/8/2021, 8/28 to 8/29/2021, 9/18 to 9/19/2021, and 9/30 to 10/1/2021. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Item C in our agenda, we need approval for tonight's following agenda.
Move approval, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call on City Administrator Phil Rath to give us an update. So Phil, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Honorable Mayor. The first thing, I just wanted to put a plug in for this coming Thursday, August 5th at 5:30 p.m. You and I will be having a town hall style listening session for anyone in the community that is interested. That'll be located at the Bridgeview Center. Purpose of that will be partially to look at some of the American Recovery Plan Act dollars that the city will be receiving and getting some input from the community on where they think some needs might be. A little caveat to that, there will be there's rules and regulations on how we can spend that money. So we'll take all the information and then put that into a format back to council with those suggestions, staff, capital improvement plan ideas, everything else. And so I want to make sure that we have public input on that as well. The second thing is I just wanted to mention real quick on the downtown streetscape project that's been on social media recently. We had at the last meeting talked a little bit about trying to look at the project, and we were authorizing the payout to the contractor. Well, that wasn't saying that we were accepting the project as final and complete. That was making sure we were complying with some of our contractual obligations. We are still working, and a little bit later on the agenda, Director of Public Works, Larry Seals, has a recommendation before the council to look at a resolution. Obviously, we know that the pavers in the intersection, the crosswalks are settling more than an acceptable level. We may even say failing. And so we need to resolve that issue, and that's part of what we brought forward here a little bit later. That said, I also wanted to note that I feel the city and our other partners, Main Street and others, have worked real closely to really add value to that area in the downtown in the Streetscape project. It was a major undertaking. If you look at the before and after pictures, you see a lot of real value that was added to that area. And unfortunately, with such a large project and construction as it is, there may be things that don't go exactly as planned. Well, we adjust as we can. We try to make it the best that we can, and that's where we're at right now. So I just wanted to be out there that all of the partners really were working to make Ottumwa a better place, and I don't want this one failure with the pavers to be lost in the grand scheme of all of that. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Phil. Any questions for Phil? Okay. Item E in our agenda is we always give citizens a chance to have input on anything on the agenda. So if there's something on the agenda you want to address, now's the time to step forward and identify yourself. Okay, let's move to item F.
Bid report and contract award for the demolition, cleanup, and disposal of asbestos contaminated materials at 120 South Van Buren, Ottumwa, Iowa. Recommendation: accept bid and award contract to Dan Larson for the sum of $24,000.
Move the recommendations presented, Your Honor.
Second. Thank you. Again, we have Zach. So Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Bids were accepted until 2 p.m. on July 27th, 2021 for this project. One bid was received from Dan Larson for the sum of $24,000. This was the second time that bids were requested for the project because no bids were received the first time. This building, because of the fire and because of the nature of the asbestos, we do have to treat all material there as asbestos contaminated, which means that it first lowers the number of contractors who can bid. They have to be qualified to do the asbestos contaminated abatement work. And then second, it requires more difficult handling and more time, which means both of those factors work against getting low bids. And that's the reason why the bid is so high. Staff does recommend awarding the contract to Mr. Larson.
Any questions for Zach?
Zach, I got a quick question, just for my own peace of mind. You said there's only one bid, and when I hear that, it's like, well, is that the best we can do? Obviously, you recommended that we accept the bid. Does it sound reasonable to you that that's in the ballpark of what this kind of project should entail?
It's definitely on the high side. If this were the first time we'd put it out for bids and this was the only bid, I might even want to try again, but we've already put it out. This is the second time. I really don't see it going down. And you look at what's there, you look at the way you have to handle it. It's on the high side, but it's within the window of what's reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Good question. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Zach, so is there any aspect of fire insurance or anything that could help offset what we have to pay to remove it?
I don't remember in this case if the property was insured. If it was insured, the law requires the insurer to set aside $10,000 for demolition reserve, and we would be entitled to use that reserve to help with the cost of the abatement.
So that could be checked out then?
Yeah, if there was insurance, we will have that reserve already set aside by now. I just don't remember in this case if there was or not.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Consideration of appointment to fill the city council vacancy resulting from the resignation of Councilmember Stevens. Recommendation: review the applications received and consider appointment to the city council.
Okay.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. I think, Phil, that you and I should make some comments on this. So You want to start?
Certainly. So on July 12th, we did receive the letter of resignation from Councilman Stevens, and that was effective this past Sunday, August 1st. He was in the last year of his term, and that was scheduled to end the end of January 2nd of this coming 2022. That the regular part of that seat is subject to the application process and the November election. And so anyone that's interested in the full 4-year term can take out papers starting on Monday. Those would be due back in on August 26th, and that would be for the full 4-year term that would start January 3rd. What we're looking at doing, per the council instruction, is to appoint somebody to fill from the point of the time of appointment until that end of the term, January 2nd. So that's where we're at right now. We did have a 2-page application / questionnaire that if anyone was interested could fill out. We have received 5 applications for the balance of the term.
And just to be clear, we did then, after receiving all 5 applicants, had the city clerk call each one of them and invite them to come tonight, and I thought it would be appropriate to give them some time to make some comments directly to the council. So let's just take them in the order that you gave on our list, Chris, if you have that handy. I think Mr. Johnson is first. So I'd call, council, are you okay with that? That's your call.
Are you stating a time at all?
I'd give them up to 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so Rick Johnson, if you're in the audience and you'd like to address the council, you can step forward and tell us why you're interested.
I've never done this before. For those of you that might not know who I am, I'm Rick Johnson. I've been a lifelong person that's lived in Ottumwa. I grew up here, graduated from Ottumwa High School in 1970, so I was 69 in March. I worked for the state of Iowa for 32 years as a Department of Human Services area administrator, and for the last 16 years, I've been the CEO at River Hills Community Health Center in Ottumwa. I am going to retire the end of September. And so I'm going to have some time and looking for some other projects and other kinds of things for me to get involved in because I don't sit home very well and watch TV. So I've always been interested in trying to do what I can to help promote Ottumwa, Wapello County, and Southeast Iowa. I feel like I do know a lot of the issues that Ottumwa is being faced with. I applaud a lot of the stuff that this council has done in the last several years, especially with the downtown revitalization and enhancing a working relationship with the Wapello County Board of Supervisors, which wasn't always as good as it has been for the last several years. So I really applaud you guys for doing your work and working cooperatively with Wapello County Board of Supervisors for not only the good of Wapello County, but for the good of Ottumwa, Iowa. I've been on several community boards over my tenure at DHS and at River Hills, so I know a lot of community folks. I feel like I'm a good mediator and a good listener, and I just want to try and make a difference and continue to help Ottumwa grow and have it be a great city. So that's why I'm interested in running for or serving on city council.
Okay. Any council questions?
I had a quick one. Looking at your application, I saw your, I think it was 9 or 10 points. I could be wrong on the goals and strategies you see. I was wondering, looking at those, if you have looked at the county or the city's comprehensive plan.
Yes, I have.
I could see the alignment with said plan. So, but yeah, that was really nice to see. So I was curious if you had looked at that.
I think for me, and I'm sure everybody in this room, Ottumwa is not going to continue to grow as a community if we don't do everything we can to enhance economic development. We need new jobs, good paying jobs that's going to bring more people who want to come and live in Ottumwa, Iowa. And all the things that are being done for the city, I applaud all of it. But if we don't have more jobs and new job opportunities to get more people to move here, Ottumwa is not going to have the potential to grow like I think it could. So I'm really big into economic development and seeing what we can do to enhance that at all levels of the city and the county.
Thank you, Rick. We appreciate that. Keith Cavanis.
Mr. Mayor, Administrator, members of the council, I'm Keith Cavanis. I live at 2851 Oak Meadow Drive, and I've been a citizen of Ottumwa for over 50 years. The city council, or excuse me, I've served on 2 four-year terms of city council. Most recent was 2006, 2010. I've served on the Waterworks Board and recently have been reappointed my second term on the Waterworks Board. I have operated a local business, Color Master, and the photo shop in Ottumwa for over 40 years, closing in 2014 in retirement. My wife Trudy and I have lived in Ottumwa, raising our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren right here in Ottumwa. We love Ottumwa, we believe in Ottumwa, and as a council member, I believe it would be my responsibility to serve the citizens of Ottumwa fiscally and by helping Ottumwa grow. I would like to just comment on one of the comments that Rick made, and I certainly agree with most everything he said. But if we're going to bring more people and more businesses to this town, we've got to provide for them a place to live. We have housing shortages maximum. We have people living in Oskaloosa and other parts of our southern Iowa because they can't find a place to live in Ottumwa. Well, that needs to be addressed before anything else. We can't attract people and businesses if they have no place to lay their head down. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Cavanis? Okay, thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Brad Steins.
Hello.
Good evening.
I'm Brad Steins. I'm 35 years old. I've grown up in Ottumwa. I moved here when I was about 4 years old. Always had a passion to see Ottumwa grow and keep it revitalizing. I've seen the city go down to some lows. I've seen it consistently being built up over the last 10 years. It's something I've thought about for the last 3 years to join city council and be part of that. It's been kind of a thing I like to see. I have 7 kids and I want to kind of teach them. You know, it's good to have an investment in your community. We run a local business. I repair computers in town. So I try to contribute locally a lot. A lot of people in town may know me and my wife. We manage the bird scooters around town. So we played a big part in helping bring that to town. We're really big on family activities. I think that's one thing that really brings people to towns is stuff for families to cooperate with. And without that, I mean, it's hard to attract a lot of people for the jobs and things that are being talked about if you can't bring the families and provide housing for big families.
Any questions for Brad? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for applying. Phil Thomas. Okay. Russ Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you guys taking your time and consideration to hear us out. My name is Russ Hall. I've lived in Ottumwa for 40 years. I have spent 14 years driving truck over the road. And in the time that I have been around Ottumwa that I am able to do things, I've tried to work with local boards and help grow the city as best as we can. I recently took a job with commercial sanitation, so I'll be working in town for the next 20 to 25 years. Hopefully that'll be a career for me. I would like to be on the city council because I want to work with the city and help grow our economics and get better jobs. I have 7 nieces and nephews, and I want them to have an opportunity to stay in Ottumwa. They're all graduating high school in the next 5 to 10 years, and I really don't want them to move away. And that's the same with a lot of children they're growing up and they're moving away because we don't provide them with something to keep them here. And I look forward to, whether it's on the council or other boards or anything in Ottumwa, I look forward to working with everybody up there and helping Ottumwa grow. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Russ. Okay, council, we're at your disposal to proceed from here if you want to make a recommendation to us, or if you want to do any further interviewing. It's up to council to decide what you want.
Mayor, I would just mention, thank you to the four that took the time to come speak and also to fill out the applications. And it's really encouraging for what will be maybe a 4.5 month commitment to see people step forward and willing to do it. As to your question now, how do we decide? Because all of these are good. I don't know if we're prepared to just, each of the four of us put a name down and turn it into the clerk, or what other suggestions there are as to how we make the decision.
If I could offer just a couple of words
Certainly.
as well, just to throw my opinion in the ring here. First, I'd echo Councilperson Stevens on applauding the four people that are present. We have 25,000 people in this community. Four people, well, five, came forward to offer their services in this last few months of Councilperson Stevens's absence, and that is pretty courageous. Just there's a lot going on up here. So again, I applaud every one of you for stepping forward. In my opinion, I guess, and maybe I'm looking at this more from an employment standpoint than an elected official standpoint. We wouldn't. I would suggest that we would move towards an interview process. I know we have applications here, but again, going back to these four people stepping forward and having the courage to do this, I think that they deserve their time in the sun for us to actually give them the moment to answer any specific questions that any particular council person or the collective might have for them, as opposed to making what I would consider, a warm body decision tonight. Do we want to make a decision quickly, or do we want to make a decision that's correct for the taxpayers and the citizens of Ottumwa? So that's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Your Honor, I'd entertain that. I think that's actually a good idea. I was kind of thinking the same thing myself. It'd be kind of nice to sit down and have a one-on-one, more of a, we've had kind of a public, interview here tonight, or 5 minutes in the sun. But I think it'd be better to have just like a more, one-on-one type conversation, because a lot of the things we do up here isn't, all official in business. There's a lot of, thoughts and feelings and goals that, we didn't get to probably talk about as much as I'm sure the candidates wanted to talk about tonight. So I'd entertain that, an interview. I mean, wouldn't have to be, a long time before we had it. We could do it quickly and soon. But I would be okay with that too. Yeah.
Any other comments? Then hearing that, I think it'd be appropriate to have some matter of record that we have a motion to go interview the 5 people who have submitted their names, and do that as soon as possible, and report back so that we could make an appointment at the August 17th meeting.
I'd make a motion to do that interview process.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so the motion is to have an interview process, do it as quickly as we can, but thoroughly, and report back to the council and to the public at the next regular meeting.
Timeline question, if I may.
Sure.
So there's already a meeting scheduled for Thursday for our city administrator and yourself. I will be out of town until a week from Thursday. And I'm curious if other council members have plans where they're going to be gone in the near future, because this needs to be done. So I'm just curious, rest of the council, any problem with the next week or two as to your schedules?
I'm here.
Not that I'm
I can be
aware of.
available pretty much anytime, next couple weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Your Honorable Mayor, also echoing the thank yous for stepping forward and putting in an application for this. I'd also encourage all of you to consider running for the full-time seat, taking out the papers. You can get those either in the clerk's office or online and start that process. Can't officially start circulating until Monday, but you can pick up the papers anytime before that. So please, if this is something you're interested in, consider that. We will have, it sounds like 3 seats that are going to be open for the November election. So, thank you.
And in light of the 3 seats that will be open, we're committed to providing you with the information and anything you want to ask about. So again, Phil and I would be available, and so would the council, to give you any information you think you might want to know about, because as council's indicated, we are dealing with several issues that are not always talked about at the council meetings, but are part of the background and history that you need to have to be an effective council person. So feel free to ask anybody for information if you want it. And Chris, our city clerk, Chris Reinhardt, has a great handbook she does too. So we'd be glad to share that. Okay, there's a motion on the floor, been made and seconded to conduct interviews as soon as possible. Any other comments? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Myers,
No.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 3-1. Okay. Thank you, and thank you to the candidates who came tonight. We are always happy to have people in the audience and keep us on our toes. So feel free to stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting. Okay.
Replacing permeable paver system with PCC concrete, Ottumwa Main Street project, downtown streetscape. Recommendation: approve proposed material changes on Ottumwa Main Street project, downtown streetscape.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have with us Director of Public Works, Larry Seals. Larry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I do want to start out just echoing Administrator Rath's comments on the value of the streetscape in the downtown area. If the people that lived in this area during that time period, they would have been fully aware of the rundown condition, a lot of the, not only the street infrastructure, but the facades in that area. There was something that had to be done. There was a great group of people that got together, including Main Street, Legacy, a lot of other interested folks on the design team that was able to pull together a design based on a lot of outer communities' experiences. Unfortunately, we covered the actual technical issue that we had with the paver system. And ultimately, we did have aggregate failure under some of those pavers. Since the writing of this staff summary, we have had additional meetings with the IDOLs and IDEA folks, along with our grant people. We have been able to come up with, I think, a fix, and that, of course, is to replace the pavers. We are going to save those pavers for use in another area, so we will retain that value. So I guess staff's recommendation is to move forward with the replacement of the permeable pavers with the PCC at intersections, mid-block crosswalks, and designated crosswalks. We would still use the red-colored brick-stamped PCC. This work would be completed under the current and open Portson contract. If approved, Portson intends to mobilize Monday, if that's still their schedule. These were fast-moving decisions that we had. As it stands right now, there's a few details to work out with both funding agencies, but the indication we got Friday from the department head is that there will not be a reduction in the grant.
Questions for Larry?
Larry, I just have one note of clarification, and this goes back to the last council meeting. Just to, as a reiteration, when those pavers were put in there, those were put in based on the design requirements that was in place at the time, correct?
That's correct. That paving system, I would say, is relatively new. at least in that application. And what we use is what's called SUDA standards, which is State Urban Design and Specifications. Those things are developed over time. Now, unfortunately, this system hasn't had the time in service as other systems. That is what we selected. We even went to a point in the design process that we requested and found vendors that had a higher density or compressive strength paver to try to offset any concerns at the time. And again, we had debates on aggregate type. Do you go the extra mile and do granite? That was very expensive because you have to haul it from Michigan. So there was decisions made, and that was the system and the specs that we had at the state level.
Okay. So, and maybe I'm just asking this for my own personal satisfaction, looking into the future when we are making decisions based on the standards that are in place, is there anything that we can do other than trusting those design standards to ensure that we don't make a decision like this a second time?
I'm sure we're not going to
Does that make
this
sense,
decision
that
again.
question?
Well, to a point. I mean, local jurisdictions have the authority to override. I mean, the standards is something we use statewide to make it uniform for contractors to understand what they're bidding. Products are the same throughout the state. Again, most of the time, these things are done over decades, and these type of projects that are not successful are considered, and the standards are changed. There's already discussions that's one item. It's a process. You go through some design committees, and they will look at these specs, and I'm going to guess there will be updates to this section.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say, since this time, the state has already updated the requirements
Right.
that we were under those requirements now or then, but as of just 2 months ago, that changed.
Well, and that's, knowing that they've changed to this point, I guess just looking back in time to the point that the council made the decision, I'm just curious. I was just curious if, if there was any way to see past that, so we don't have that circumstance happen again, I guess is what I was asking, understanding that they have made those changes, but I know that there was issue of discussion at that point in time, whether if it was the best stuff to be used at those intersections. If memory serves me correctly, you weren't the most in favor of that, and council made the decision based on the design standards at the time to go ahead with that project. So that's why I was asking that question.
I guess from our department's perspective, we had concerns for that system in that application, meaning was that system really set for mainline traffic? That's where that has been successfully used in parking lanes and other areas that do not see the full load and turning movements.
Okay. Thanks, Larry.
Larry, I got a quick question. Were we the only or the first community to ever put those pavers into a place that would be having a lot of traffic?
No.
And how did the other communities from past, how did they get by with this? It couldn't have been if they'd used the same specs we did they have issues?
Some communities had some. Some of the recent installs have had settlements. Same experience we had around structures, around edge of pavements. Nothing to this extent.
Just seems kind of odd that if they had that experience and the state saw that, and you said once they, this gets out there for a while and they get some feedback and some stuff on this specification, this process, that they change it. Like, I think I've heard that they are changing it now or on the process of. Just seems unfortunate that when those problems don't arise and we do it time and time and time again, we have to be the final community to make that mistake before they actually go in and change their specs. And I know it's not a fast process. There's a lot of engineering in it, which I have no background in, but it was just an unfortunate incident that happened. And I appreciate you, letting us know beforehand that, this is probably not a good sub base to use, but, again, we're going with state specs and they control the grants and, here we are. So I'm just glad to see it getting rectified soon. Quickly. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Councilman Myers.
Well, I just think these thoughts are good. And Mark, you brought the same thing up last time we met. And it's kind of like we dance around things sometimes that we as a council have to make decisions. And a lot of groups, and believe me, I believe in committees and groups working together. That's how you get things done. But I do recall well that Public Works had some real reservations and stated them about using that process. And in fact, maybe they took a little heat over the fact that they were willing to suggest that they had reservations about doing it that way. So I think it comes back to sometimes we need to listen to our own people a little better and get their rationale and react, as opposed to, gee, I wonder why that happened. Charles City is one that several years ago went with this process, and since that time had parts of it taken out. So there were examples, surely, of high trafficked areas as to whether it would work or not. So I think in the future, we need to listen to our people maybe a little better.
I just want to compliment our staff and our entire team. We did have a great collaborative phone call last Friday with the IDOLs and DNR and architect and the funders. And I thought there was a good exchange, and everybody agrees that we've learned something, and the fact that we're not going to be penalized is in our to our benefit. One of the questions that hasn't been addressed tonight, Larry, can you give us a ballpark figure? What's this going to cost us to do as a project, and how we get that recovered, whether it be through some existing funding or shared costs?
Well, currently, we're working on that with the contractor. We do have hard bid numbers for some of the items. The items that we do not have on that scale of a project, you led a project with mobilization, for instance. So it's how do you negotiate mobilization for a smaller set of equipment and number of staff coming down here. If I use just the pavement removal, the base numbers, the plain straight PCC and the colored PC, we're about 105. That kind of depends on the contractor on some of these items that are lump sum that was for the whole project, but still would have to be paid under this contract. That's to be negotiated, and got ongoing calls with the contractor to try to pin those numbers down, but somewhere around 105.
Okay, and you'll bring that number back to the council when you get that?
As soon as I have that, I'll
Pinned down.
provide that information to staff and council.
Okay.
Now, as far as pavement, the original amount that we had under all the funding was $5,995,465. And we'll have to look at, we've got staff time and some other softer expenses to see where we're at. The contract sum to date was $5,302,787. We had $300,000 to a second firm for inspection, contract administration over a 2-year period. So there's a little bit of money left. That's something I'll need to get with finance and see where we're at. I don't know if she's had time or even had time to look at this part of it.
Okay. All right, so there is a motion on the floor to approve the proposed material changes on the Main Street project. Been made and seconded. You ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Consideration of request for public support of an application for funds from the American Rescue Plan Act to establish a rural resilience recovery office. Recommendation, consider the request from South Central Iowa Workforce.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And we'll ask Phil to make some comments on this.
Sure. Okay, so you have a example of the letter attached to the agenda packet. The mayor and I were contacted to see if the city would be willing to submit a letter of support for a request for funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, dollars that were going to the state. This request came from South Central Iowa Local Workforce, and it is to establish, if they were to receive the funding, they wanted to establish an office for rural resiliency recovery. These funds are not part of the dollars that are coming to the city that we have that I mentioned earlier about having the meeting Thursday night and working with staff and council on deciding what to do with all of the dollars we have coming. these are dollars that they'd be applying for and using for that. So they're just requesting a letter of support to go along with their application, saying that the city would support that. And in the letter, it outlines some of the areas that we would provide that support. Assisting with convening industry, education, workforce stakeholders, disseminating materials through newsletters, social media posts, webinar links. So it's a lot of, and there's more things in there. But basically, that's what it was a request of. Since it was a request for the city to support that, wanted to bring that before council to weigh in and give their blessing if the mayor was going to sign off on the letter and submit that.
Any questions for Phil? Councilman Myers?
Well, I don't know questions. I just have some thoughts. I don't want to see another layer of bureaucracy added. I'm just curious. I certainly don't want any city funds to go into this. You stated, they said that wouldn't happen. But on the other hand, I'm kind of curious, rural, it's kind of like, okay, did they ask the county? Doesn't the county get money also from this program?
Yeah, and so
I was at the county meeting when the individual, Krista Tedrow, made the presentation to the Board of Supervisors.
And how did the Board of Supervisors react?
They were supportive.
Oh, they were, okay.
yeah, and I believe she has reached out to the counties, looking at a regional effort is what
Right.
she's looking for. So
Right.
it would be a regional office, bringing together resources from neighboring counties and communities, providing some support to, I think Krista had also talked with our city clerk, Chris, and had mentioned like some of the communities, the smaller communities that don't have the resources a large community has. And this would be an office to help with some of that. If you have one person that is trying to do a million things on a daily basis. So it's providing hopefully not another layer, but a different area where people would be able to seek resources and could be directed towards to get the help that they're seeking.
Matt?
Are they still applying as their own organization then for those dollars or the American Rescue Plan? So we're just basically saying, yeah, we support it, or does that help them get the funding? Or because I'm just still kind of up in the air on what they exactly do. I wasn't on the meeting, and any feedback would help in my decision.
Yeah, we are not applying for this on their behalf. We are just sending a letter of support with their application. So similar last year when the city applied for the build grant to
Right.
federal program, we had sought letters of support from leaders in the community, congressional leaders, whoever it was that we could get to show support for the program and hopefully give a little bit more oomph to the application.
From what you two saw, was it a good program in your opinion? I see there's no staff recommendation here. It's just given to the council. So did you find that there would be good in that?
I think there is, as Phil has already mentioned, I think the real key is that the majority of the small cities just don't have the staff and personnel to put together grant applications and requests. This would give them a lot of information that they're just not available. They just don't have the full-time staff to do it. So I think it would help the area. And again, I think with the idea that if we raise the tide, all the boats float higher, we want them to take advantage of it. Otherwise, that money will revert back to the U.S. Treasury.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
No.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-1. Okay. All right.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on the disposal of city-owned property located at 215 North of Benton in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa.
Okay, public hearing, so we'll have Zach give us an update first.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is a property that the city acquired under Iowa Code Section 657A, where we took title to abandoned property. The city accepted bids on the property until 2 p.m. on July 27th, 2021. One bid was received from Kevin Mobile in the amount of $2,200, and staff recommends accepting that bid. A copy of the bid sheet and the bid tabulation was included in the packet.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that wants to address this item, now is the time to speak. Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Resolution number 140, 2021, accepting the bid and approving the sale of city-owned property in the city of Ottumwa, Wapello County, Iowa, known as 215 North Benton, to Kevin Mogul for the sum of $2,220. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 140, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Resolution number 160, 2021, award the biosolids hauling contract to Midwest Injection Incorporated from Cascade, Iowa, and authorize the mayor to sign. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 160, 2021.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
The original 5-year term of the Water Pollution Control Facility's current biosolid hauling contract has ended. Our current service provider did not wish to extend the contract at the current hauling rates of 0.0255 per gallon and $27 per pressed ton. The City of Ottumwa advertised for proposals to haul for a 3-year contract and received 4 proposals. 2 of those proposals did not include a price for hauling liquid sludge and were not accepted. The responsive bids are summarized in the tablet below. Midwest Injection has the lowest price per gallon for liquid and pressed. And if you calculate what we estimate annually at 5 million gallons, for Midwest, that's 187.5, and for pressed, 142. We're anticipating with the increased price that we'll start pressing more sludge. One of the reasons we always hauled liquid before, because if you did the math and your cost for pressing, it was cheaper to haul liquid. So with that, we recommend Midwest Injection.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Resolution number 161, 2021, releasing a request for qualifications for architects, landscape architects, recreation planners, and engineers to develop a master plan for Greater Ottumwa Park. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 161, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. One of the things that was really clear when we were working on the comprehensive plan was that Greater Ottumwa Park is a resource that few communities really have something comparable to. It's a really large park and a really central location with almost endless opportunities for how we can use that space. But it does remain underutilized at this time. So the resolution would release a request for qualifications for architects, landscape architects, recreation planners, and engineers to design a master plan for developing improvements to that park. The starting point for this request for qualifications really was the Ottumwa Park Reimagined map that came with the comprehensive plan. And that was really just a high-level concept for what opportunities we had. It greatly expanded the number of ball fields, greatly expanded the number of soccer fields, and included some of the projects that were already in the works that we've gotten further on at this point, like the Bridgeview Center Hotel, the Recreation Center, that are going to allow us to sort of continue to ride some momentum around sports tourism, improve our economic development by making the connections to the Quincy Place District and the Oxbow districts better. Really, we have a lot of things that we know we can do in that park, a lot of things that we want to have a more concrete vision of how to do. So this will, it'll be released. These teams or firms will submit proposals for how they would develop the plan, as well as an estimate of what the cost of the plan would be. We'd review those proposals, and then we'd select the most qualified firm. We are asking the proposals to include a schedule for how they would do public public feedback for the program, communicating with stakeholders, how we'd want them to meet with groups to develop the plan. We also want, obviously all the renders, the designs, but we also want those things to be at a state where we have the engineering and the design available for us to develop phasing and then to develop those projects to where they're ready to be let for bid. So we really are looking to go from the sort of point of imagining Greater Ottumwa Park to the point of being ready to act on creating and executing a shared vision for what we can do with that excellent resource. Releasing the request for qualifications, reviewing the responses does not commit the city to developing a plan. We could reject the responses. We could bid or we could release another request for qualifications. We will have a committee evaluate these responses and bring a recommendation to council that will specifically describe how it would be funded. And we would be looking to communicate with some of our community partners about opportunities for sharing the cost of this plan.
Any questions for Zach?
I just have a quick comment. I fully agree with you. We do have a pretty good asset in our park system here in the community. We talk about getting people here to the community. We, obviously housing, job creation, quality of life really has to be part of that conversation as well, because there are people that have made the decision whether to be in this town or not to be in this town based on the quality of life amenities that we have. But to the words that you said, a concrete vision for the parks, and just the finance guy in me says that we probably ought to consider what our concrete vision is for the funding as we move forward as well, because we still are on a limited budget, so to speak, here for the next few years. So I know that a lot of those things, just from looking at like the shower house or upgrades to the Jimmy Jones shelter or the beach, we have the maintenance that we still have to take care of at the beach. So we have a lot of things that are already in place that we have to care for. So I would be curious to know how we intend to pay for that over the long term.
Right. And I think that this type of planning, it sounds like it's fun, but a lot of times it's a reality check, because it's identifying things like, well, you really want all these ball fields. This is the reality for how much parking you need, and this is the reality for what it costs to pave that much parking. Every one of these pieces of sort of park infrastructure costs more than you think it would. Tennis courts cost $120,000 a piece or more. These things are going to not be cheap, and the starting point to really knowing what we're capable of is having some sort of plan that tells us what these things actually cost, how you want to phase them, what's the correct way to go about doing them. And we can't guess at those things. We aren't, we don't have the professional experience to develop it ourselves. We have to go out and seek this kind of plan so that we can put it together and so that we can be realistic about what we can do.
One of the things too, to maximize the potential that's there, we have entities in the city right now that are raising funds or seeking partnerships with different entities and wanting to construct yesterday. For example, the tennis courts that were mentioned, there's an active group that has already gotten commitment from the school district. They're working on other fundraising and other opportunities. And one of the things I think we really want to make sure is that we have a plan laid out so that we know exactly where those tennis courts are going to go, or where the soccer field is going to be built, or the first ball field, whatever those pieces are, because if you're off 50 feet, that could mean that a ball field doesn't fit there anymore. And so when you have these large chunks of things that have to be all placed, having an opportunity to lay this out and show that, yes, you can fit 4 ball fields here, but you also need to have 100 parking spaces, and you need to have an area for restrooms or other facilities, making sure that we have all of those things thought out. Because right now, the diagram in the comprehensive plan is just that. It's a diagram. It's a pictorial rendering of what could be. And that's great for dreaming. But like Zach said, when you have to fit in the right number of parking spaces and the right number of amenities, how much can we really fit into that same space? And I want to make sure that we're starting out in the right way from day one, so that once the dollars are raised, and some of these entities, to answer your question, are raising funds or looking to do that, whether it's the Little League group, people that are involved in the soccer program, tennis, the tennis group, they have about a third of their money committed right now, and they're looking for the city and they're looking for others. So that's where we come in with trying to fit that, but making sure they're putting it in the right place at the jump is one of the main things for this plan.
I have one concern with
Sure,
this.
go ahead.
And, this is obviously necessary for moving forward with any kind of parks development. I get that. But what I see a lot is dreams and studies and plans, and then they sit on the shelf and they're outdated, and then our plans change, and so we spent $250,000 on something that does absolutely any good. Are we going to pull the trigger on some of these things is my question. I hope we are, because I have no problem with going forward with this and paying for this if we're going to do some things. I don't want to see another plan sitting on a shelf. We've had, I don't know how many parks plans. We've got an old parks master plan. We got the Riverfront Renaissance plan. I've seen many park drawings that you alluded to, and I get the fitting it in the specs and all that. That I think this is definitely necessary. What I don't want to see is us allocate a lot of money when the budget's tight for something we sit on the shelf and we aren't ready to pull the trigger on some of this. I mean, this can be done when we're ready or we have everybody lined up or the funding is available. I'm okay either way, but I don't want to see this trend of keep coming up with plans and then nothing happens. I think we all are kind of in that same position. We want to see something done. So I don't have a problem with this. I would like to see something getting done. Do we have the funding? Do we not? Should we wait? If you say this is the best time, okay. But I just get, kind of tired of seeing all the plans and nothing moving forward. But I understand the importance of it. I certainly do.
I absolutely agree with what you said. I grew up here too, and I'm familiar with that sort of process that we've had happen before. But I think we've proven that the staff's up to doing projects. The Streetscape project was something that I think that, aside from the pavers, we really did take a vision and we made it a reality. I also think that momentum-wise and timing-wise, the sports complex coming together, the Bridgeview Center Hotel project coming together, the momentum's there, and it's also there's the possibility of losing a moment with that momentum, and I don't want to do that.
What do you think of ballpark? Sorry, I'm sorry. You should actually go next. What's the price tag? What's the ballpark price tag? We talking 100,000? We talking 50? We talking $250,000? What do you think something like this ballpark would be costing us at this point in time?
I think the total cost for the plan is going to be around $100,000. I think the total amount the city is going to have to spend on that will be significantly less than that.
Okay.
And just for clarification, we're not voting to spend that money today.
Right. I understand. Yeah.
Okay. Just so the public
But I
knows
want
too.
to, before we get the ball down the road,
Yes,
our blessing,
yeah.
I don't want to come back and vote no and then say, hey, well, you voted for the application. I just don't.
Yeah.
Want to do that.
And
I'd rather get it aired now.
part of what the deliverables are, which we'll get from that, the RFQ here, and what to provide will give us that price. And I think one of the things we were looking for was an action plan, kind of laying out what, some things you need to do step A before we can do step B.
Sure.
We can't build anything on that pond that's being filled in until it's filled in and compacted and whatever else. So there's things that, making sure we're getting some of that timing done as well. Those are kind of the areas we're at. The parks, there is a Friends of the Parks committee out there now that is out there raising funds and doing things as well. So, having this set up, I think will go a long way for that.
And we'll be sharing this cost. I mean, the cost isn't just all on us. There'll be other people, or is this just on us completely?
Well, I guess I don't know if I have an official commitment, but in general, that we have partners that would be interested in helping to pick up some of the cost on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I may, Mayor, and let me vent some frustration to the public, because I think we did it again tonight. And my experience on the council, my too many years probably, we don't plan right. I'll back up to tonight's candidates for the open position on the council. We said, if you're interested, turn your name in. They did. Then we said, fill out the application. They did. So then we said, come to the meeting and we'll let you speak for 5 minutes. They did. Now, tonight we say, oh, by the way, we want to interview you individually. Why didn't we do that in the first place? Why do we do these? Now, what am I saying about tonight's park thing? And I agree with Mark and I agree with Matt, both. It's like, what are the plans? Because I was on an ad hoc park committee meeting 20 years ago. And we hired and paid big money to have somebody come in, and we prioritized different activities, different areas of the park that we wanted done, and we did nothing with it. Now, throughout time, yes, what happens in the economy makes a lot of difference, whether you can follow through or not. But here we are talking about bringing another group in to tell us, gee, we think you should have this many ball fields. But as Matt says, how are we going to pay for it? So what is the plan? And I appreciate the fact that the school district, because boy, that's a big move, is that they are committing monies to working with us and so forth. But it's kind of like, are we just drawing something up again without a plan to how we'll actually do it? Thank you for letting me vent.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to comment that I think this is the step for ensuring that the comprehensive plan we just did gets utilized, unlike comprehensive plans in the last where we see those great things. You know, you can't move from that comprehensive plan to construction without having this in between. So I think that making sure that we utilize our most recent plan, this is one of those things that has to be done. You know, you have to have engineering, you have to have geotechnical, all those things to be able to know what it's going to cost to even know if we can afford it, because we don't have that information until you have a plan like this started. So in my opinion, this is what you do to be able to get the answers for those questions. Not to mention having then ballpark figures, pun intended, for then grants that are coming out, you know, with the American Rescue Plan Act, there's recreational funds, trail funds, et cetera. So I think the timing on this, one, it's directly out of our comprehensive plan, but two, provides us with something that if we do want to move forward and we do think it's feasible, there's additional outside funding the next couple of years for this type of thing.
Very good. Any other comments? Okay. Motion to pass and adopt the resolution authorizing for the RFI or RFQ for the park system. Are you ready to vote? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 3186, 2021, amending the municipal code of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa by repealing section 2-270, duties and responsibilities of the city clerk, and enacting a substitute in lieu thereof. Recommendation pass third consideration and adopt ordinance number 3186, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And Phil, are you taking this?
Well, this would be the third.
Third
and
reading.
Final reading, so.
Any questions? There's nothing to comment. We'll take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Thank you. Item J on our agenda, we always give citizens a chance to bring the council up to speed on any issue affecting city business. Is there anybody who wants to address the council tonight? Please come up to the mic and identify yourself.
I'm Trudy Cavanis. What I would like to throw into a little bit into the mix on this park situation, I think Ottumwa should consider pickleball courts. I think it's one of the fastest growing sports, and especially our son-in-law and daughter play a lot in Des Moines, and they're keep improving and increasing these pickleball courts, and they're still standing in line. And Ottumwa, if you look at it, and I haven't been all around Ottumwa, but we have several tennis courts that maybe are not as utilized as the ones in the Stags and in the Central Park. And I think they could be retrofitted as pickleball courts. My understanding is that you can put 3 pickleball courts in a regular tennis court area. And at this time, as far as I know, unless there are some others in play, the country club has some pickleball courts and a group that plays there, but of course that's a private course. And then at the Y, you can check out the net and they play indoors in the gym. But I do think that the pickleball courts would be a great asset to Ottumwa. And again, I've not been all around. The ones that I know you're talking about, moving them around down in Central Park. But the surfaces, and again, I'm no expert. I've just asked a few people. One was former Mayor Dave Dickey in Packwood, who put in a pickleball court in there in Packwood. And he said you just need to retape or repaint and put in the nets, and it's not, you can use it on a tennis court surface. So that, and maybe, obviously you folks know more about that than I do. I know there's a tennis court out there at Memorial Park. In looking at it, there's quite a little bit of grass growing, so I assumed it's not well utilized. And I know there's one at Bell Park. I don't know how well utilized that is as far as for tennis. And so I think maybe without a lot of expenditure, we could at least in Ottumwa have a few pickleball courts that I think the citizens would enjoy without, again, a large outlay of money. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Trudy. And that's a good example of citizens bringing things to the council that we don't often talk about at general discussion. So thank you for your ideas. Okay, petitions, communications. I have a list of things I want to share with the council so that you're up to speed on things we've been doing. First of all, I want to congratulate the OHS baseball team that made it to the quarterfinals this year. I think they played the #1 team in the state and did a very respectable job, and we are hopeful and optimistic about their future. Want to reach out and say thank you to the community for the support they gave Chase and Abby Johnson on the fundraiser that was held recently. Great turnout and great support, and I know they appreciated your support to them. Phil's already mentioned the listening session Thursday night, so that's open to the public at Bridgeview at 5:30. As a follow-up to the last meeting, I brought up the idea about talking to our sheriff and police departments about joint dispatch. There is a meeting set up already, and we're going to be talking with both departments and see what we can learn about the updating equipment so our police and sheriff can be on the same platform and talk to each other and share information, which I find in this day and age just not acceptable if they can't do that. We do want to schedule a work session for remodeling City Hall at some point, and so again, we'll put some feelers out to the council, see when you're available, and talk about that and go into more detail with that in terms of planning and costs. The pavers have been covered, thank you. We're moving ahead with the hotel at Bridgeview. That's in formative stages. Thursday, State Auditor Rob Sands is going to be here in Ottumwa at 12:15 in Jimmy Jones Shelter. He's making a tour across the state, and I think anytime we have state officials, we always try to show them the highlights of Ottumwa and tell them what the good things going on here. We had this past weekend, we had a major water main break here in town, and I just want to compliment Fairway Grocery Store for the work they did. They provided free water to citizens on the south side. We had offers from Casey's. We had help from Dr. Pepper and Keurig. And the boiling order has been lifted as of 3 o'clock today. So that's good news. But again, it takes a village, and when you have a major break and it affects the whole south side, you got to have teamwork to get that done. And then I just want to make a comment. We attended a actual trial this morning. Several years ago, we had a concern about public-private sewers. It's been handled by our insurance company, and today was a hearing in front of the judge. I think our team, Dave Schrock, the attorney that represented the city, and Mr. Seals from the Public Works did a great job. It's in the hands of the judge now, so sooner or later, we're going to get a decision, and that will be resolved for us, and it also has implications for municipalities across the state. So that's going to be an important decision to follow up on. With that, I think that covers most of the topics. Are there any questions or any issues from council?
I would just say that Babe Ruth World Series starts next Friday, and there's still quite a few volunteer positions open for assistance on that, which when we're talking economic development is a huge economic impact to our community. So it's good to have other people seeing our community then, and really need all hands on deck to help out with that.
Thank you for that reminder, Holly. That's great. Again, and to follow up on that, Andy Wardenberg, our CVB director, has a website, and if you want to talk to him, 684-4303, and you know, volunteer, bring your family, friends, and relatives, and come and have a good time watching some baseball, but helping out and volunteering for that event. Okay, anything else? Then I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes,
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
I have 6:51.